Alright, so I've been working in the automation space for quite some time now, and over the past couple of months, I've been researching AI agents to understand exactly what they are and honestly just see what the hype is all about. Now, during my journey of learning about AI agents, I found that there's so much information on the internet about AI agents. It seems like everyone has their own definition of what an agent is, and there's so many different frameworks and types of agents that it just makes learning about AI agents super complex and confusing. So I decided to summarize my research and findings into a quick video that's going to teach you everything you need to know about AI agents. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what an AI agent is, what the capabilities of AI agents are, and what makes an AI agent so special. And if you stick until the very end, I'll even show you a real-life demonstration of a quick AI agent I built on a platform called Relevance AI in a little less than 20 minutes. So let's not waste any more time and get right into it. Alright, so what are AI agents? I really like this definition of AI agents. AI agents are fully autonomous systems that can interact with the environment around them in order to achieve a desired objective. Three really key points here. Number one, that they're fully autonomous. Number two, that they can interact with their environment. And number three, that they achieve some sort of objective. So to kind of simplify this down for you, realistically, AI agents are just a thing that you can tell to do something for you, and it goes and does that thing without any help. And during the process of trying to do that thing, it will interact with the external environment around it. So you tell it to go do something and it does it for you. It doesn't need any help. That's all AI agents really are. Okay, now I'm going to explain AI agents to you in more detail, but before I do, I want to take it a couple of steps back and talk about what automation has always looked like in the past, traditionally, right? Traditional automation, or what technical people would call rule-based automation, would require you to define a set workflow every single time that automation happens. So you know how I said with the AI agents, you can tell it to go and do a certain thing and it will go and do that certain thing for you without any help? Well, traditionally we could kind of do that as well with rule-based automation, but you would have to define exactly how that thing has to be achieved. And to kind of show this to you and put some perspective behind this, in this example of a rule-based automation, you can see that when the automation starts, you have to define exactly what happens at each step in order to get to the final outcome. Now, considering sometimes automations will have slight nuances and slightly different scenarios, like sometimes the input is slightly different. With traditional automation, we would account for that by allowing what we call rules or conditions or logic, basically saying, okay, well, if the sky is blue, go up, and if the sky is gray, go right, and if the temperature is 20 degrees, go this way, and if temperature is 40 degrees, go this way. So you just say, if this is the case, then go this way, and if that's the case, go that way. And by doing so, you would basically account for the different cases that would go through that automation. Now, you can imagine that this is quite difficult to do, and it's quite resource intensive because you would have to be able to think of all the different cases or scenarios that would go through this automation and be able to define a logic for them. And eventually what you'd have is a process that's got 1,000 modules instead of just like 5 or 6 modules in this example. And this is obviously very hard to achieve, and it also narrows down the amount of use cases you'd have for that automation, because you would have to have a very repetitive process for you to be able to automate it with rule-based automation. Because if it's not repetitive and if there's a lot of nuances, then that process is just going to get bigger and bigger, and it's going to be harder and harder for you to build it. Basically, this is what traditional automation is. And let's say about 2 or 3 years ago, when I first got into automation, what had come out was large language models and ChatGPT and I don't know, Google Gemini and all that sort of stuff. And what these large language models allowed us to do was add them as a module within this rule-based automation. So what we then did is, let's say, for example, would have a module here that's a large language model. And realistically, all that this large language model would be able to achieve is maybe generate some sort of text or generate some sort of image, or I don't know, pull some sort of data from somewhere and answer a question or something like that, right? So you would add the large language model as a certain component of the process, not as the thought behind the process altogether. Now, when we added this large language model as a certain component of the process, what we also had to then do was add a big stop sign. And this stop sign was what we call a human in the loop. Because you can imagine that ChatGPT, let's say, if it has a 90% accuracy, then 10% of the time it's wrong, right? And if 10% of the time it's wrong, in theory, that's completely fine. If I'm just using ChatGPT and asking questions, no worries. But if it's a company that might lose $1 million if ChatGPT is wrong, then this is quite concerning. And so what we would have to do as automation builders is we'd have to put a big stop sign and get the automation to get approval from a human. So the human says, yes, this answer of the LLM is okay, and it continues. And if it says no, then it would either stop executing or something would happen, right? So this is what we call human in the loop. So traditionally we had a set workflow, and then with large language models being added to the list of technology that automation users could use, we had to implement human in the loop. Okay, now that we understand what traditional automation was, let's look at what automation is today and will be in the future with AI agents. Let's say this brain here is an AI agent, and this stick man here is the user of this AI agent. With AI agents, what you do is you just tell them to do something, or you give them some sort of objective, like, hey, go and book a restaurant reservation for me. And then this agent goes and dynamically builds a workflow in order to achieve that objective. So it goes, okay, well, Kia said to go and book a restaurant reservation. In order to go and book a restaurant reservation, first I've got to figure out what time the restaurant's open. Then I've got to go and check what time Kia is available. Second task. Then I got to go and check, I don't know, what's the best travel options to that restaurant. And then I'm going to go and check the menu. And then I'm going to go and do whatever, until eventually I can book the reservation. So this being the objective being achieved or the output. So basically, in simple terms, what happened is you told the agent to go and do something. The agent said, okay, well, I got to go and do this thing. In order to do this thing, I got to do this in a sequential manner. And then once I complete all of these steps, then I will have my desired outcome. Cool. So using this diagram, we established two things, like one thing, but kind of two things. First, we established that these AI agents can complete tasks dynamically, or can complete dynamic tasks. That's probably a better way to say it, meaning that you can tell it to do something, and that thing could be slightly different every single time, and they will still be able to do it without you having to tell them how to achieve it. So they're dynamic. And number two, they're fully autonomous, meaning that they don't have to come and ask you for permission saying, oh, can you please accept? And then you say yes or no. They just do that thing. So you can imagine in a business use case, this is pretty valuable, because it allows you to build more sort of diverse automations that are slightly more like dynamic and have more nuances. And you don't also need to sit there 24/7 and make sure that they're working properly. And that's why everyone's saying, whoa, AI agents are going to change the world and it's going to be $1 trillion industry. And whoever doesn't know AI agents is going to stay behind. And I completely agree. So you're in the right place trying to learn. Okay, cool. But what makes these AI agents capable of doing things dynamically and without being told how? So AI agents have three components or three capabilities that make them super powerful. First, the fact that they can plan, or their planning capabilities. Now, some people call this reasoning capabilities. What this basically means is, you know how I said you can give the agent an objective or like a task? You tell the agent to do X, Y, Z, right? This is the task you give it. This XYZ could be book a restaurant or whatever it's going to be, right? You give the agent an objective. The planning capabilities of the agent, let me just push this down. Cool. The planning capabilities of the agent allow for the agent to break down this objective into smaller objectives or smaller steps. First, I got to achieve this. Then I got to achieve this. Then once I achieve this, I should achieve this. And then I should achieve this. And if I achieve this all in a sequential manner, eventually what I can achieve is XYZ or that main objective, right? And this is what we call task decomposition, meaning that you give the AI agent some sort of broad task and the AI agent is able to break it down into smaller subtasks and go and achieve those tasks individually, right? So this planning sort of capability, or this like thinking capability of the AI agents, if you may, is what allows it to dynamically build that sort of process map that I was talking about before. This sort of dynamic, right, process map, meaning that it can say, okay, well, this is what I'm trying to achieve, and if I want to achieve this, then first I should achieve this, and second, third, and fourth. So planning is super important. Now, if you guys have been following the large language model space, this is why companies like OpenAI have been pivoting into reasoning models, or O1, O3, which is going to come out soon, like the DeepSeek model that came out is really blowing up. All of these models are allowing the large language model to sit down and think about a task as opposed to just go and straight away do it. And that's why if you use O1 as opposed to GPT-4o, you can see that O1 actually takes some more time. And that time that it's taking is just it thinking through the problem. So the second capability that makes AI agents super powerful is their ability to act or take action, or some people say use tools, or as I said before, interact with their environment. Now, what we mean by environment, it just means anything that's not a part of the actual agent system, meaning that the agent is interacting with things that are external to it. They're not internal, they're external. Now, what these tools really are, they're just basically predefined workflows. And let me explain that a little bit further. Predefined workflows. So, you know how up here we said that in traditional automation or rule-based automation, what you always had to do was define the workflow from start to finish. You'd say, okay, this happens and this happens and this happens, and then eventually this outcome is achieved. It's the same sort of thing when we're talking about AI agents' ability to use tools. So AI agents can execute predefined workflows, and using those predefined workflows, they can do things, right? So these predefined workflows could be an API, for example, that the agent would call. Now, for those of you who don't know what an API is, an API, or an application programming interface, I think is what it's called, is basically just a way for you to communicate with an external software. Let me just push this down. So, yeah, an external software. Right. Let's say in the example that I gave before of booking a restaurant reservation, let's say, for example, if you wanted to go and book it on their app, you would use an API to go to the external application for that restaurant and book it. Right. So the agent would be capable of using that external application using their API. This predefined workflow could also just be an external database, or in simple terms, just a bunch of data that sits somewhere. Think of it as like an Excel sheet. So let's say, for example, if the agent wanted to go and find out how much revenue the company made last year, they'll just go to the financials Excel sheet and look for the the cell that refers to the revenue made in the last financial year. So the agents could also go and talk to external data. More broadly, the predefined workflow can just be a bunch of code. Like the agent would be able to go and use a bunch of code to do a certain thing, right? Or the predefined workflow, and maybe this is actually not a predefined workflow. So yeah, maybe that doesn't exhaust all cases. But the tool that the agent uses could just be another agent, right? Meaning that the agent goes, okay, well, I've broken down the task into these tasks, and this task seems to be something that like Joseph, let's say that's the name of another agent, is really good at. So I'm going to delegate this one to Joseph. And then Joseph says, oh, okay. And then he goes and runs his own sort of workflow and does his own sort of thing and then gives the output back into the workflow, right? Now, this is an example of a multi-agent system, which just means multiple agents working together in order to achieve that objective. And usually we use this because each of those agents are specialized in a certain field, and it also reduces costs and all that sort of stuff. Cool. So second capability of AI agents were the fact that they could take actions, and put number 2 there. And the third capability of AI agents that makes them super powerful and realistically just makes them work, because it wouldn't work without it, is the capability of memory, or the ability for the AI agent to remember things. When it comes to memory, there is 2 types of memory that's relevant. There's the short-term memory, just like a human brain, and also I'm about to write human, and also the long-term memory, just like humans, right? Now, what the short-term memory really does is it allows the agent to remember what's happening in this this run or this execution or this time that it's working. It's like, okay, well, this time I'm working, I've gone down this path, and this happened here, and then this happened. Oh, what's going on? This happened here, and then this happened here, and now I'm here, and then what's happening next, right? So they remember what's happened till now. That's short-term memory. Now, long-term memory means that the agent can remember what happened in previous runs, or the previous times that it ran, maybe like last month when it had to achieve some sort of task. It remembers exactly what happened then and what the feedback was after it gave out the output. So let's say it ran whatever workflow it had and it gave out the output, right? Someone came and said, okay, well, this output was like 80% good and 20% bad, and this 20% bad was because of XYZ reason, right? And then they fed this back into the model, or they told the model the feedback about how it operated, right? And then the model goes and remembers this in its long-term memory. And why this is super valuable is it because it allows the model to basically learn from its mistakes and improve over time. So improve over time. In a business use case, this is super valuable because you would have an autonomous system that does things autonomously, and over time with the feedback that you give it, it just makes itself better and better and better. So you don't have to go back and manually make it better. It just reads what's going on from the feedback that it gets and it makes itself better. Super powerful. Cool. So if I zoom out a bit here, there we go. That's realistically all an AI agent does. Like there's other things like perception and that sort of stuff, but realistically, the core components of an AI agent that make it so powerful that everyone's like, whoa, it's going to be, I don't know, either the end of the world or the best thing that ever happens to us, is really just these 3 components. The fact that it can plan like a human brain, the fact that it can take actions like a human, and the fact that it remembers things. There we go. The fact that it remembers things, actually. Yeah. There we go. The fact that it remembers things. Super, super powerful. So now that you guys understand exactly what an AI agent is and exactly what it's capable of, I want to take you through a real life example of an AI agent that I built on Relevance AI. It probably took me like, as I said, like 20 minutes, honestly, even maybe 15 minutes because it's super easy to use the platform. On Relevance AI that is capable of writing blog posts. So this agent is an agent that you tell to write a blog post for you. The input that you give it is write a blog post about a certain thing and research these articles. And the agent goes and researches the articles that you tell it to, and then it writes the blog post for you. So realistically, the agent is super simple. All it is, it's just the brain with obviously the planning capabilities and stuff that I talked about before, connected to 2 tools. Tool number 1 is a scraper tool that can grab all the text from a certain website for you. And then tool number 2 is a blog post writing tool. And realistically, what this one is, it's just a large language model. It's just like ChatGPT. So I just basically told ChatGPT that it's going to get a whole bunch of research and it should use that research to write a blog post. Now, realistically, if I wanted to build a proper blog post writing agent, I'd probably put a little bit more effort into making it more capable and giving it more tools, and maybe even giving the agent more instructions. But for the case of today's demonstration, I wanted to keep it quite simple. So that's all I allowed the agent to do. Well, that's like all the information, all the capabilities I gave the agent. Okay, that's the right way to say it. Cool. So let's copy the objective and give it to the agent. So if you guys haven't seen Relevance AI before, this is what it looks like. It's just, yeah, it's a pretty cool platform for building AI agents. There's so many platforms out there. I find Relevance and N8N to be the best. But yeah, use whichever one you want. I just, for the sake of today's demonstration, I wanted to use Relevance. So this is the blog post writing agent that I've built. All you have to do is give it an objective. As I said before, tell it to do something for you. The objective I gave it is write a blog post on how AI agents work and their benefits. Use the following URLs for research. First URL and the second URL. Maybe I'll just format this correctly. Boom. So I gave it 2 URLs and I told it to go and write a blog post for me. I didn't tell it how it should go and write the blog post. I didn't tell it how it should research those URLs. I just said, go write a blog post on a certain topic and use these websites to gather information. Now let's run it and see what happens. Cool. So the blog writer is running. Let's see. So it's going to ask me if I should approve. Yes, go for it. So that approval step is a example of human in the loop, keeping the human there to say, yes, do this, or no, do that, don't do this, or yes, the answer to this scenario was good, or no, you did a really bad job here, if that kind of makes sense. So it's going to ask me to approve something again, which I will, and yeah, so AI agents do take a while to run. I might just cut this and come back. Okay, you ran. Never mind. I don't need to cut this. Cool. There we go. So what it did is it scraped the URL, scraped the URL, and then it went and built this blog post for me. So the information that it got here is off the URLs that I told it to go and scrape. Now, this was a super simple example of what an AI agent could be capable of, but you could imagine there's a lot of use cases for AI agents. Realistically, I honestly think in the future, almost every employee's job will somehow have an AI agent in it. Now, whether that AI agent fully replaces the employee and becomes the AI employee, or whether that AI agent operates as a tool that helps that employee. Cool, so that was AI agents. I hope you guys found this useful. Feel free to comment down below what you guys want me to talk about next. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.